No doubt. And AG, I'm just going to hop to a couple of listener questions right now because they just addressed something you brought up. And one of the questions was what does Jordan Love need to do this year to make you believe he's the guy going forward? And I think with something you just said, at least from obviously there's some things on the field that he has to do. And I'm not going to put a number on the yards or the wins or losses. But I think what you just said is very interesting, right? How they assume the mantle of leader of the Green Bay Packers organization, because this is a quarterback-driven organization. It has been for the last 30 years. So how you assume that mantle and the expectations that you set for yourself and the expectations that you set for the people around you and how you expect other people to deliver on your expectations, right? Is it heavy-handed? Are you kid-gloving people? Do you do it with love? No pun intended. Do you do it by spending time? How do you lead? How do you lead this building? How do you take over that role? Because I don't know that when I'm just looking at the offensive side, David Bakhtiari is probably the default leader of that offense right now. When Mercedes Lewis is gone, all these other, Aaron's gone, obviously. Randall Cobb's gone.
You got Aaron Jones, AJ in the backfield.
Yeah, maybe Aaron and AJ. I'm going off of age and status, right? We don't know for sure, but Jordan is in a prime position to insert himself as the alpha male, the dominant leader, right? Yes. In this, how is he going to do that? What does that look like for the rest of the team?
Yeah, and he has to make sure he does that the best way possible, and which way that is, because he don't want to sputter out of the blocks. Basically, we just got out of Churchill Downs at the end of last month or a couple weeks ago. You don't want to stutter out the blocks with these new players. Some of them really young that just got drafted, but then some he spent the last 2, maybe 3 years with already, and he wants to continue that trend of when from that time, that Philly game on Monday Night Football, the game they lost, but he had a successful series. He had a series where he threw a slant route that went 70 or whatever it did once he conceded to Christian Watson. So he wants to use plays like that for building that confidence within himself and building that confidence with the players that he's playing with now. I mean, then it will come later in terms of training camp with the coaches.
The other question they had is, and this applies to skill guys as well, but offensive linemen, the question is, do they play better with a veteran quarterback versus a rookie? And the answer is obviously it depends, right? Drew Bledsoe, nobody plays good with, right? But because he holds the ball for too long.
I remember
Marco Rivera. Marco told me this. He calls me one day where when he had gone to Dallas and I had gone to Carolina. And I had Jake Delhomme. Jake was great, man. Like Jake could get rid of the ball. He was on time. Yep. Drew is a statue. He's 6'7". He's he just pops the ball and he just holds it.
Doing this the whole time.
Oh man, and he can't move. God forbid somebody.
He can't move. He had 2 big old knee braces on. I remember Drew.
So Marco calls me up and he's like, he said something to the effect of, I'll butcher the story, but something to the effect of like, I was sitting with Drew. Drew's a great guy and you got to love him. And but Marco looked at him on the bus one day and just goes, "You are really hard to block for." So it doesn't matter, right? But I think the point is when you have the question more revolves around. When you have somebody who's confident and knows what they're doing, they can go through progressions fast, and obviously is already an athlete, that is going to be easier to block for. I never bought into this thing where like Tom Brady, the offensive line always knows where he is, so it's like easier for him to to block for him. Yeah. Tom Brady's easier to block for because he got rid of the ball faster than everybody else.
That too.
Right? You know what I mean? Like for me, if I know where he's going to be every time, the defense probably knows. And what you're really saying is he's not mobile. It's not that he was,
which is okay. Which is fine.
Well, so I'm just from the perspective of an offensive lineman, I would much prefer to have an athletic quarterback to block for that can evade a problem if I create one, right? Then if I lose early, he's sacked. I don't like that feeling, because it goes bad on my stats, right? I don't want to lose either way, but I don't want him to get hit. If I lose early and he can run out of the way, I would much prefer that, right? So Jordan's got the physical characteristics of that. I think with this, processing speed, leadership, be able to change the play or the scheme or the protection in order to pick up a blitz on the backside of 4 weeks, something like that. I think all of that stuff's super important. I don't know that we're going to I think what'll be interesting here in reference to the offensive line is if Josh Myers continues to play center and that center quarterback relationship, we don't know what that's going to look like. How many calls are the center made versus what Aaron had, the adjustments that Aaron made during the game. Frank and Mike, they made adjustments, but really ultimately Brett would say, "Hey, listen, they're going 4 week here. John Lynch is coming down. This is what we're doing, blah, blah, blah." He switched the call. Whereas in some offenses, the
Yeah.
center's making all the protection calls and adjustments, and the quarterback just kind of chips in every once in a while. So if Jordan, if they're giving more to Josh Myers, for example, because they want to take more off Jordan Love's plate, well, that would have a direct effect on I think the ability of the offensive line to maneuver around if Josh is not comfortable doing that. So that could be something that comes into the equation that makes a big difference.
Yeah, 100%. You know, because for Jordan, he's obviously deep in the playbook right now, learning all the little audibles, verbiage, understanding what he needs to look at from the safety standpoint. But then he has to then go back in and learn what the O line is, and what that conversation is like among the O linemen. You know, during the play in the huddle, but sometimes there's a huddle. You know, feedback from one another. Hey, man, this guy's doing this to me over here. Let's try this next time on that double team block or stuff like that. And so then he'll understand where he fits in at.